my jelly fighters, my name is Jim and this is your Daily Brogue for the 7th of September 2021. I am hydrating. Let me hydrate a little bit. Here, can you listen? Hydrating before my run. Still trying to get an idea about this I do not dream of labor thing. It seems to be over intellectualized. So I was listening to the Honey and Absinthe podcast. Nice podcast. And there was a bit of critique in there about, I do not dream of labor, right? About this whole, it's not really a movement. It's mostly a bunch of whining. Okay, I'm not burning, so I successfully did the fire dance. The new AI algorithm, new pathfinding algorithm, and the new rules for monsters. Makes them more patient. There's no way to get to you. Okay, so, and they were talking about this I do not dream of labor thing, and so I read a couple things, and listened to a couple of things, and in a way that just makes me more confused, because it's mostly just a bunch of bullshit. I know. It's mostly just people saying they want to quit their jobs because they're not happy making all that money. It's kind of weird that that's a really good one. It's kind of weird the way these broke down, because the Honey and Absinthe dudes are artists, and one of them is famous for quitting work at Disney, quitting her 9-to-5 at Disney, just trying to sell her own art. And like I said before, I have a friend who did exactly the same thing, only like 20 years earlier. And I had a student who was completely unable to understand why. Why would somebody do that? You're working for Disney, right? But obviously, if you're a talented individual, you have a lot of... This is unlucky. Okay. If you're a talented individual, you have a lot of skills. Then sometimes, maybe not all the time, but at least sometimes, you might be tempted to try to work your own way and not have to, do something that's not quite as fulfilling. Right? And so you would think, just based on what these people did in the past, they'd be pretty, maybe not keen on the don't dream of labor sort of scenario, but it would at least be reasonably sympathetic to it. But they weren't. And I'm not, right? Because there's a little bit of a difference, right? There's a little bit of a difference between somebody who's upset about, you know, their job in HR, deciding to do whatever. You know, sometimes I really have no idea what these people are doing. In fact, I do have no idea what these people are doing for money. Now, obviously, when I was a kid, people had the same sort of ideas about the younger generation. Some people in the younger generation did those things, and some people in the younger generation did well, and most of them completely flubbed. And that's what will happen here too, right? What's sort of weird is that these guys are all fairly well educated. That is, you know, they've all been to college and stuff like that. You know, saying things like, I didn't dream of my paying off my student loans, and so forth and so on. I mean, it is very weird. I mean, you know, because you're not exactly sure where they get the money, right? And it's highly likely they have what you might call other means of support. That is, other people are basically paying their bills, right? That's not altogether uncommon for young kids. And it's getting more common even for people that are in their 20s. Lots of eels today. Oops, crap. I guess I was hungry anyway. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a good war axe. I don't have an alternate. I have to figure out how to turn off those stupid speakers. My wife has some powered speakers, and with most things, she found a way to hook them up so that I have to crawl around in the mud outside, you know, to somehow disconnect them. They're what, 20 years old now. Computer speakers. He's not even a music listening person. It's a bad school over there. Yeah, there are a couple of things here. I think the big problem isn't coming from the stuff I was just talking about. If you want to quit your job and try something else, it's your business, right? As far as I'm concerned, you can do that until the cows come home. That's a good idea. However, let's see, H, P, H, T, E, H, T, E. After recharging, look at one thing I can actually get around this. And I got a firebolt. Okay, identify J, Y, L, protect armor. Okay, armor wasn't what I wanted protected. It was better than nothing. Okay, so the problem comes when they start putting together some weird ass crap. Now, there's been some really awful ideas here that have come out. Bullshit jobs, for example, or you know, meaningful work. And you know, you say, well, why is that a bad idea? Well, it's a bad idea because, one, nobody's going to pay you to do a bullshit job, right? The government might pay you to do a bullshit job. The government might pay you to do something that doesn't do anything, right? But a human being is only going to pay you to do something that is actually beneficial to them. I know this is a strange idea, but it happens to be true, right? If I run a business, I can't afford to give you a job that doesn't it doesn't do anything for me. And in fact, that's one of the things. If somebody's paying you for your job, right? If somebody's paying you, that means something very important. That means that what you're doing is a benefit to at least one other person, but that generally means it's a benefit to society, right? That's how you can tell. If some other person is completely happy give you money, that person is saying you are important. Now, maybe not as important as the CEO or an engineer or something like that, but he's saying you're important, right? Even if you're just a mail clerk or something like that, you help keep the organization running. You help him make money. And he only makes money when he makes other people, he fulfills other people's needs. It's a strange thing that people often have problems with. They don't really understand that, you know, the whole point of capitalism, the whole point of a free market society is that, well, maybe it's not the point, but this is how it works. People only make money, people only make a living in a, what you call a capitalist country, if they're fulfilling the needs of other people. If they're making other people better off. So that's what capitalism is about. But apparently a lot of these guys, because they're overthinking it, have latched on to some really bad ideas that are usually coming out of the academy, right? So some of them are super bad ideas, right? So one person was, I'm going to suggest you read, what was it? A really awful book that came out of the 60s. A dumb book coming from the height of the dipshit era. And that was Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is a strange book to read if you want to, critique work, seen as what it is it's about education, not work. It is also it is a book that I was not expecting to all of a sudden end up with every staff. Do I have every staff? No, I don't have lightning and transmission or obstruction. Let's work out the poison. so that's pretty good plate armor. Might have to keep it. Although I need some more strength potions and enchants to make it work for me, but still. And the Goblin Mystic burned himself to death. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like I went too deep down the rabbit hole. I didn't. I mean, I watched a couple of videos, but in general, I just got sort of an idea. I wasn't able to more of these. Okay, right. But like I said, there weren't a lot of real similarities. There were a lot of them that were, light on specifics, right? End up with a passive income stream, so you don't have to do any work. This is weird because they're young, right? And you say, why is that weird? Because they're young. Wouldn't you like to have a passive income stream when you were young? Wouldn't you have liked that? The answer is yes. It's just that passive income streams are not easy to set up. Right? That's more or less their deal, right? So yeah, just set up a passive income stream, make $1 million. Easy, right? Well, not really, not so easy. So because, I mean, for a real passive income stream, you know, you need to have something that you've already sold, right? So, yeah, I mean, write your novel, and see it show up, buy a bunch of blue chip stocks and live off the dividends. You know, I do not get the feeling that, you know, these kids set up their finances that way, right? I do not generally have the feeling that they took that kind of time. And I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. Let's see, next one over there. Okay. But you know, sometimes, you know, you don't actually think so. Now, there are a lot of things that people can do to make themselves less money. Maybe they're more fulfilling, but probably not. So, you know, they say they do not dream of labor, but I don't know what they don't really give me any rationale about what they did to dream of, right? That's sort of the difference, right? And there's that. Oh, never really been good at fighting the salamanders because, you know, you can't sit around and get close if they're in the middle of a fire and stuff like that. Okay. What are the worrying things? Yeah, wearing that plate mail right now would have done nothing for me, but if I kept that banded nail, I would have been able to use that. So that probably is the thing I should have done, is even though the banded nail wasn't enchanted, I should have kept it. Okay, so where should I go with this? Well, I guess there are a couple of things. Yeah, there are two things that I think need to be addressed. One is, well, what should you do, right? So, like I said, these guys don't have any positive dreams, right? They don't say, I dream, when I was a kid, I dreamt of, you know, creating my own comic book, or buying a mountain and sculpting it into a vision of Venus or something like that, which would be awesome. If you could put together a 3,000 foot high, if you could put together a 1,000-meter sculpture of Venus, you'd have to find a really good rock outcropping for that, but that would be so awesome. They don't have these positive visions. They just say, well, I don't like working a 9-to-5 job, right? This is strange, especially because they're trying to critique capitalism, but traditionally, of course, though it hasn't really been true for a long time, the idea is that socialism is a labor movement. That is, the people who are socialists are laborers, right? People who work, right? They should get more because they're the ones who work, not they should be free to not work. So, moving towards something that, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be, right? And this is an answer they don't have. This is not something that I actually see in these things. I see, well, I don't like my office job. Fine. Go get a job at McDonald's, right? Because that's the other thing you're qualified for. And so I should talk a little bit about that. Partially, including my experience in my 20s working that kind of job. Secondly, need to talk about this late-stage capitalism stuff, because that seems to be a lot of bullshit. I see it here and there, and I heard it in a couple of these videos, the longer ones. Some people are talking about 20 minutes about, they didn't dream of labor. But they don't actually explain why or anything like that. They sort of say, well, I really didn't enjoy being in this situation. Well, okay. Who cares, right? So, have to figure out something about both of those situations there at some point. Not really, but, we probably should. Those are the two things we have to talk about. And so, we'll do that later. Bye now.